And we're live, I think. Oh, and I'm looking very, very nice and low down in my chair. So thank you very much, everybody who's out there, for joining me tonight. Let's just see if we can get organized a wee bit here. Ping, and I'm sitting very low. Oh, that's better. There we go. Occupy a better frame in the screen. So if anybody's out there, thank you very much for joining us on this lovely Friday here. It's gorgeous here. Welcome to the Science Fiction Station, also known as the Doghouse, and I'm Doc Sloan. So thank you very much for joining us. We're just starting off here at 9 o'clock on our Science Fiction Friday. And the idea is just really to have a bit of a chat, hopefully, about all things science fiction and anything really to do with genre fiction, fantasy, horror, that kind of thing. Science fiction, all forms of science fiction. So, excuse me. So, we're at the Doghouse. We've just had to close the windows because people are chainsawing things outside, and our dogs are being a little bit barky. So, I hope you don't mind. And I just thought I'll have a few wee topics just for tonight, just for if anybody's listening, interested, say hello, by the way, in the live chat. And thought we'd just run with a few wee things. We've got a couple of wee bits of news about Dune, I suppose. There's some casting work going on there at the minute. Pardon me. And a bit of a word about Bene Gesserit TV series based on the Sisterhood of the Bene Gesserit, which I think they're calling Mind Killer. And I think that looks like a bit of a go with John Spate as the main writer there, who's a writer on Dune, the Denis Villeneuve film. So that's kind of interesting to see, I suppose. And we've had a good wee chat about Dune this week within the book club. And we've kind of actually had a wee couple of interesting discoveries, I suppose. Pardon me, throat's getting better, much better, by the way. We're nearly there. But we've had everybody in our house has had a bit of a throat infection for the last few weeks. And we've all been medicating properly to try and get it sorted, But there we go. Bob says, evening, Doc. Evening, Babs. Thanks very much for joining us. I hope you're keeping well. It's a gorgeous day here. I hope it's nice where you're at. Colleges and Cannibals says, the biggest genre fiction news of the year. Don't faint. Johnny Depp has announced he will do no more pirate franchise flicks. Oh, dear. That's a bit of a debacle, isn't it? The whole Johnny Depp thing. Yeah. And it's being sort of run out in the public a lot. But yeah, franchises, I think, are... I don't know. It depends on them, I suppose, Colleges and Cannibals. It's something that I've given a lot of thought to lately, particularly with properties. I suppose if we call them intellectual properties like Star Wars and Dune and all of that stuff. There's Chris Gibson going, yarp. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us. And it is interesting in some ways how I think... the way we talk about people sort of within fan fiction and stuff like that, but the idea of fans desiring more of a property, even after the original author or writer has passed away, and what it does to a property. I have to say, I remember going to see the first Pirates of the Caribbean film in the cinema, and enjoyed it so much, and I'm oblivious to if it was any kind of theme right or something like that. I just thought it was really good. It was a good piece of family entertainment, I think, which is hard to find these days. It's easy enough to see all our adult-orientated gun-toting, all of this kind of thing, but it was genuinely a good old-fashioned, I thought, swashbuckler kind of adventure story, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought Johnny Depp played it pretty well. But then we get the same thing over and over and over again, and it becomes a bit... and they're really sort of plundering the mythology of, I suppose, that historical period of all the pirates and buccaneers and all of that sort of stuff, privateers and things. It was quite an interesting period of history. I suppose it's a big part of empire. Who can blame him? Says Colleges and Cannibals. Disney dissed them good and hard. And Colleges and Cannibals continues. Sometimes the big companies are good for genre entertainment. Sometimes they don't know when to give up. Yeah. Well, the examples that I can think of, see, it's not I don't think it's a modern phenomenon. I really don't. I think the best example to show of that's Sherlock Holmes. Really, with the strong desire to kill Sherlock Holmes, and very much a bit of a backlash, as I understand it, from the public. And actually, that backlash creates, I suppose, that whole thing with the Reichenbach Falls. and then the return of Sherlock Holmes. And if we have kind of Sherlock Holmes before Conan Doyle kind of wanted him dead, and is it the final? What's the what is it? What is it called actually? The final. Hang on, Sherlock Holmes. Before I say the wrong thing, Final Problem. That's the one I'm thinking on. Yes. Um, God, I should have remembered that. Thank you, Conscious Candles. Oh dear. Yeah, the wealth of the wealth that comes up in terms of Sherlock Holmes stories after that point. There's so much good stuff. And it's a kind of an example of that, I think. And we have a lot of kind of serial fiction, if you like. I suppose the other ones that come to mind, things like Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, if you see what I mean. Lots and lots of stories, and by the end of it, it's the same with Holmes. Kind of towards the end, not quite the same thing. Arguably, we get something similar with stories like Gulliver Jones, or not Gulliver Jones. Who is it? John Carter of Mars. Sorry, I almost think of Gulliver Jones of Mars. Hello, Holly. It's right. One of the ladies under the doghouse here. How you doing, big love? You okay? Want to give me a kiss? No. Go on. Oh, no. Oh, old lady. No, go on. Go see Matthew. Go on. He'll go play. Sorry, she's looking for somebody to play with her. Apologies about that, folks. But this is the doghouse for a reason. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's but Star Wars, I think, is one property in particular that suffered really badly at the hands of a corporation. And I'd almost argue, well, I can't say it's a corporation thing, but I think the Alien property has kind of gone downhill quite badly. Killed a good Tim Parrs story dead. Let me see. Can you enlighten me a wee bit on that one there, colleges, please? Tim Parrs. On Stranger Tides. Inspiration for Monkey Island. Oh, is it? Oh, right. I see. This is the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. Thomas Parrs is an American science fiction fantasy author. Parrs has won the World Fantasy Award twice for his critically acclaimed novels Last Call and Declare. His 1987 novel On Stranger Tides served as an inspiration for the Monkey Island franchise of video games and was optioned for adaptation into the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film. I remember Monkey Island a long time ago. Most Parrs novels are secret histories. Oh, right, okay. I never really I didn't quite understand too much about the history of the Pirates of the Caribbean. I always assumed that it was something to do with maybe incorrectly, but I always just thought it was something to do with like a set of like a theme park or something like that, and they wanted a movie made out of it to sell the theme park. I might be completely wrong and ignorant about that, but I definitely enjoyed the first few films, and Colleges and On Stranger Tides. That's the book that yeah. Good morning, beautiful people, says Brad. Good morning, Brad. Thanks for joining us. We've mentioned Parrs before, the Anubis Gates. Yeah, I saw that. I don't think I've read anything by that gentleman at all. Excuse me. It's part of one of the reasons why I'm kind of doing the station, I suppose, colleges, is that there's I kind of headed down this kind of career path, and it all went about I don't know, in 2010, roughly 2009, 2010, and it kind of just went south for me in a way. I'm sure I've chatted to you about, but it's kind of the desire to kind of come back to this stuff that I love, and I feel that I've missed out on so much, and I kind of have read an awful lot of sci-fi fantasy, not so much modern horror, but some of the older stuff, and I really do find it hard to find new stuff, new fantasy, new science fiction, and not only to find it, but get the time to read it, I suppose. But I'm always on the lookout for something. I'm going to scribble that one down. Is that one of those ones, colleges, where it's I'm thinking on the Die Hard books, the novels for the Die Hard series. and where they've kind of taken a story, if you see what I mean, it's maybe a genre story and made it fit a property. Is it like that? I'm wondering. This on Stranger Tides. I'm just scribbling that down there. And Anubis Gates. Yeah. Pirates was a show ride, yes, but OST on Stranger Tides was a Parsh novel. And yes, spot on. Okay. Oh, right. Good, good. Excellent. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for something like that. It's just time. There's so much to do, so much to read, and I suppose the good thing is that a lot of the stuff's bringing stuff up on my radar. And as far as I'm concerned, you'll get a sense of this from me that I don't really buy too many new books, but I buy a lot of secondhand books, and I'm a secondhand bookshop, charity shop kind of book buyer, if you like. So I tend to buy science fiction, fantasy books by opportunity. Though I will go, since we've been doing this, I've started using some of the online secondhand bookshops to sort of track down particular books, and we're going to bring them to the fore of my reading list, if you like, and try and work them into the show and get some videos done. But yeah, it's Johnny Depp's been a pretty mainstay of all sorts of kind of weird and quirky films over the years. Yeah, it's a very, very bizarre thing, I have to say. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be one of these court cases of the century, I think. But yeah, I don't know the one that bothered me the most, I think, in terms of what was done to it. I mean, you can see it with Star Wars and Star Trek. To a degree, you should just call it plagiarism, recycling, old stories and stuff like that. But I was quite appalled at the new Star Wars films at how much they'd copied, particularly the first one, at how much it kind of ripped off the old one. It was the same with Star Trek, particularly the Into Darkness thing with it's just Wrath of Khan, and I just thought, well, come on, if it's for a new generation, bring your new ideas, do something fresh with it, or leave the old thing alone, because it's the desire to remake things. If I don't know, but especially things that are wonderful. And you go, oh, the special effects weren't so hot in that day or whatever. I'm able to disconnect from that quite well. But sooner or later, we'll just want to remake everything because of certain visual standards, if you see what I mean. And the whole Star Wars thing, I often thought that Star Wars was a very much a once upon a time run with the hero story that and that had and it should have, if it is that kind of story, it should have and they all lived happily ever after, if you see what I mean. And certainly at the Return of the Jedi, they kind of did, and it just, yeah, there you go, there's your story, it's done. We all love the universe. We want to see it again. We want as much of it as we can possibly breathe in. But the more we suck in of it, the more the companies want to mass produce it, the more it gets diluted. And the more that you put pressure on people to go, hey, I want a new Star Wars film or something like that. And you get these writers and producers, and all they can do is look at what's come before and go, yeah, let's try and redo that a bit better. And it's a bit sad, but Star Wars has become it is now Star Wars. It's just perpetual war. It is what it says on the tin. And I think that kind of takes away something that was quite hopeful, I think, about the franchise, especially in in the global environment at the end of the 70s. Excuse me. I always thought that Star Wars was. I know there's a lot of American viewers here, folks, but I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I always thought that Star Wars was the kind of film that gave America back its hope, if you see what I mean. And it's even the name, A New Hope. But it caused some kind of cultural shift in America, I think, that everybody could get on board with. But there was definitely some kind of malaise going on at the time. And I always thought Star Wars was just a big, something for humanity to feel good about, if you see what I mean. And I think everybody did. I was 4 years old when I saw Star Wars. And and you've got to relate to the little kids in some ways who get to watch it today, who won't pick it apart too much, if you know what I mean. I just hope that they get the same enjoyment from it. I'll just catch up with your comments here, folks. So Brad says, has anyone heard of the band Fear Factory? Their first album was called Soul of a New Machine. The remix is released as an EP called Fear is the Mind Killer. Ah, they're obsessed with the war against machines. I've heard of the band. Excuse me. Brad. But not, I don't think I've ever listened to anything by them, to be honest with you. Fear Factory. I used to be really quite wide and eclectic in my musical taste. I suppose I still am. But you just don't get I don't absorb music in the same way. And I don't get introduced to music in the same way either. In fact, yeah, it's quite strange how we listen to music these days. It's quite sad, I think. Yeah, I think there was a few bands way back, Brad, as far as I recall, that probably a few quite prominent ones, I think, that kind of wanted to do stuff with Dune, in terms of music, writing kind of concept albums and stuff. I'm trying to remember. Dune. Let me see. We only get anything by about Hans Zimmer now. You would probably find it possibly on Wikipedia page or something like that. I'm trying to remember the bands in particular, but it might have been somebody like quite possibly bands like Deep Purple or something like that. That kind of thing. Fear is the Mind Killer. Yeah, something about. I think Herbert wasn't too happy or something like that. I must see if we can find that. Bojack, there's Bojack. Harkness, hi Bojack. Thanks for joining us. I enjoyed the sci-fi depth flop Transcendence. Haven't seen it. It's one that's probably on Netflix, I suppose. Have a wee look at it. One of our streaming services. I'm trying to think, was there any other sort of science fiction things that he did actually? But who knows? Let's have a wee quick nosy. But I do like Johnny Depp. I really enjoyed Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I have to say. Absolutely love that. Yeah, let's see, what have we got with Johnny Depp? Suppose a lot with there's Dead Man, I suppose, Benny and June, Donnie Brasco, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for putting me onto this. I suppose just to run through it, I think Ed Wood's a brilliant film. I love it. I felt hilarious and a genuinely brilliant movie. I really enjoy it, especially. I think I have a copy of Plan 9 from Outer Space somewhere downstairs on a computer game or something. But just the whole all of that there. Sleepy Hollow I thought was really good. Again, it's Washington Irving, isn't it? It's a bit of horror. Let's see, the Pirates of the Caribbean, Sweeney Todd, Corpse Bride. And of course the sequels to the Harry Potter stuff. Yeah, I'll tell you something else that's really enjoyable. I thought was from a fan of films. Is I have a DVD documentary down the stairs. I think it's called Man from La Mancha. Oddly enough, and I think it's kind of Johnny Depp and Terry Gilliam, etc. It's one of those kind of what would you call it? The making of films where the film never happened, and they ended up releasing the making of. So it's kind of about how Terry Gilliam's kind of planned a movie on Don Quixote for about a week of it filming, how it all came a cropper, and it's really interesting. Johnny Depp's in it. And it's just very insightful to the filmmaking process and what can go wrong on a production, I think. Iron Maiden. Was that where are we? As I said before, one of the guys from Ministry contributed to the new Dune soundtrack. My short-term memories for shit, by the way, Brad. My long-term memory is really good. So you probably will have to keep reminding me now and then about a few things like that. I do like Ministry, I have to say. As we probably mentioned it, yeah, getting into that, yeah. Iron Maiden to Tame a Land. Plan 9 is gold, says Brad. It is. Bob's Bellow. Rush 2112 is a rock sci-fi album. Yeah. Oh, there's plenty of them, I suppose, out there. In terms of the stuff that we've got on the wall behind us, I suppose, I'm trying to sort of create a wee bit. We've got a bit of decorating going on, and I've been trying to figure out what will we stick. We've got the time machine, and sorry, I suppose there we go. Our camera's slipped a wee bit. There's our pic. That's our picture of that's Mosenden Temple. You might recognise that from Game of Thrones. That's where they burn all the images of the gods. By the way, that's at Downhill Beach in Benone. We got some Mad Max picks, but what we were thinking about with the guitar and stuff was have a lovely fold-out action of double album of excuse me, it's Queen's News of the World. But Rush, Babs, there's a few of those kind of I don't know what would we call them. Is it prog rock bands? I suppose that I kind of listened to here and there, never really got into. And Rush would be one of them. I've caught them now and then. They're obviously an excellent band, you know. But there's Rick Wakeman up here. Yeah, I know Rick Wakeman. He turns up over here quite a lot on the telly. I think you'll find that he turns up quite a lot on all over the place. I suppose he's on Top Gear a lot. I think, isn't he? Sleepy Hollow with Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I went to see that in the cinema, and I really liked it. There's a really old film, Chris. Goodness gracious, what would it be called? And it's with it's a black and white from it's Will Hay. Bear with me a wee second. This is going back a long time. Oh, I spelled Will Hay's name wrong. There we go. Will Hay. Don't know if anybody remembers Will Hay, oh Mr. Porter and things like that. There was a film he did. It's a kind of comedy. And it's kind of the Headless Horseman stuff. And I wonder, I'm just having a wee quick nosy through it here just to see if I could find out what it's called. I watched it. I was chatting to my wife about Will Hay films, which I watched quite a lot of when I was a kid, and was explaining. There we go. Is that it? Where's that fire? Hang on. Might not be it. Bear with me. Oh, I'm not too sure. I don't want to go looking for it too much, but it's an old Will Hay film. They kind of run with the Headless Horseman stuff from Sleepy Hollow, and it was it's really, you were talking 1930s or 40s, and it was really good. And I think that's definitely the Sleepy Hollow there. It's possibly the most recent version of that kind of that story that I've seen since, I suppose. Arguably, Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth can be as well. I'm going to have to check out some of these concept albums, I think. Vangelis has a few, doesn't he? I think. Looking at some of that stuff, and Vangelis's Blade Runner soundtrack's pretty good. But there's all sorts of good music in sci-fi. Yeah, we must do a wee program on some bands and some tunes. Oh, something about gatefolds there, but yeah, I've got the News of the World gatefold. I thought it might look good on the back of the wall here. It's kind of like an ochre green. I do like my time machine picture, but it's it folds out to this giant robot kind of reaching in, sort of, Colossus War of the Worlds type stuff, lifting out Queen, I think, isn't it, the band, and crushing them, and it's a great album cover. I have to say. Let's not forget Elton John's Rocket Man, David Bowie's Space Oddity. Both are based on the same short story. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I'd say David Bowie for me. In fact, I've got a tape here, and I've still got it, by the way. And everything's peeled off it. It's just a grey blank tape now. But it's a David Bowie, and it's called Sound and Vision Changes Bowie, and it's a really old kind of compilation, I think, of some kind. Of course, with Starman and things like that, and the whole album, I just wow, it's David Bowie was the guy that musically brought space to me, I think, as well. I brought music that just evoked the kind of the whole space age and all of that sort of stuff. It was brilliant. And that tape, I remember, for one thing, is that there's a Bowie song called "John, I'm Only Dancing." It's not on that tape. It's got a different version of it, and it's called "John, I'm Only Dancing Again," which is really funky. I do like the funky music, I have to say. Big fan of David Bowie. I love him. Sadly missed. Absolutely sadly missed. And there's some really good parodies of Bowie. I think is it Flight of the Conchords have a wee kind of Boys in space, you know. But yeah, no, there's tons of stuff like that. I'd have to scribble down, have to have a wee think about it. My personal favorite of them all for ultimate cheese, space disco, and kind of all of that stuff is I lost my heart to a Starship Trooper by Sarah Brightman. That's going back. That's a great one. That's just so really, really, really bad, and I love it so much. I really like cheesy science fiction music, and Babs and guys, I'd tell you this, but particularly Babs, my main signifier of a really good science fiction piece of music is if it has a boo boo kind of noise in it. I like my boo boo special effect. I used to go into the music shop and talk to a guy and there and sort of kind of go, what instrument is it that makes that noise? Is it a synthesizer? I want a boo boo machine? But I love that noise. It's probably one of my favorite noises after the ricochet, kind of thing. But no, don't ever shut up about no favorite subjects. It would be good to prepare a kind of episode, Babs, and that stuff. It would be kind of sitting having to try and rack your brains. And as a musician, I think I said to you before, I've forgotten more songs than I know how to play, and I know how to play a lot of stuff. So it's a memory game with me. So we must definitely do a wee thing on music. I think it's really important. That's what we said. There's science fiction of all sorts. There's a Queen song called 39. I don't know if you know it, Babs. Um, it's kind of a folksy, kind of probably played on a 12 string kind of thing, and a very folky, and almost a kind of I don't know, kind of like a folksy choir to it. And it's kind of about a guy who It's one of those songs about a somebody who travels at relativistic speeds and returns to meet his love. And was it your mother's eyes from her eyes? Your eyes shine to me, or something like that. But it's a kind of time travel song. It's not particularly brilliant. I don't think, I have to say. I used to find it a curious thing whenever I listened to it. Mm. Let's see. Spiking. Where are we? All right. College and Collins. Speaking of giant robots, watch the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still. Not a likable character in it. Is that the Keanu Reeves one a wee while back? I think I saw it when it came out. I didn't enjoy it. Again, um, granted, it's a black and white film. I have The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original movie downstairs, and it's great. Yeah, we have Klaatu, Narada. Of course, is where we get that from, don't we? Too short a runtime to do much innovative with the material. Mm. Was that the problem with it? You think the day the Earth stood still? I don't know. I think the original film's really enjoyable. There's a lot of really good black and white sci-fi films out there. Particularly the 50s and 60s are a wealth of really good stuff. I think an absolute wealth of really bad stuff as well. Kate Sleeves brings Bowie's Diamond Dogs to mind. I recall he was stopped from making some kind of film or show based on the book by Orwell's heirs. Okay, Bob says, last thing, there's a radio program called Music from the Hearts of Space. See, I quite like that. I've got to follow up on a lot of this stuff sometime. I'm always talking about it, but thank you for these ideas. And do I get the time to look up? But I'm really trying to get back into radio at the minute. I do I listen to radio programs and radio dramas at night a lot, or attempting to get to sleep, I suppose. Music from the Hearts of Space. And internet radio is something that I haven't really gotten into and would like to. So we kind of look at that. It's a pity we can't play some tunes and stuff here without getting hammered for copyright. But I kind of approach this a bit like, I suppose, and somebody said it, they thought it felt a bit like this, a bit like the old pirate radio stations. I enjoy the kind of format on here. I think it's quite loose and happy and free, but it does feel like that sometimes. It's a pity we can't just cut to a tune or something like that. And I had thought about trying a few wee things. I'm not too sure how they might come across, possibly. But let me have a wee look. Nosy here a second. Tell you what, you can actually tell me how does this sound, folks, and see if you can hear this okay. And I don't. Hopefully, it's not too loud.
Hi there, this is Eddie, your shipboard computer, and I'm feeling just great, guys. And I know I'm just going to get a bundle of kicks out of any program you care to run through me.
There we go. Just for something for a bit of fun. I don't know. Could you hear that at all? Eddie, my shipboard computer from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, I must have a wee nosy at that actually. Music from the hearts of space. Public radio stations run. Maybe in America, Babs. Excuse me. Our choices here, kind of local radio, and then it's followed by basically BBC One, BBC Two, yeah, BBC Three, BBC Four. We've got BBC Five. You guessed it, BBC Six, and oh yeah, I think there's a BBC Seven, and then there's BBC. Oh, what is it? The BBC World Service, BBC Talk Radio. There's a few sort of independent radio stations. We have the Q ones around Ireland, I suppose, but the only other place I suppose local radio are the London stations. But yeah, Armies of Darkness. Love that movie. I love it myself. Absolutely love it. Have you seen both endings to it, Brad? I suppose if anybody not too sure, Army of Darkness has two different endings. I think one of them's very much an American. I believe I've got both of them on the DVD set that I have. Yeah, but there's I think one's a kind of an American ending and a European ending, and I like the European the European ending if you know what I mean. I'm not too sure if you guys are aware of it, but there are two different endings to Armies of Darkness, and one it's all to do with how many drops he takes. Ah, dear, but they're both brilliant. But I actually the other one of the endings set it up for another film. But yeah, I love Army of Darkness, and I love all of the Evil Dead films, and I really enjoyed Ash versus the Evil Dead, the TV series, all three series. I just thought it was brilliant, and there's a couple of episodes where I haven't laughed that hard in years, genuinely. There's something about Bruce Campbell versus the Evil Dead that just brings out a good giggle. And he's such an interesting sort of take on the hero. If you see, I mean, Ash is a great hero. He's a study in the hero, and because he's an absolute idiot who just hardly ever does the right thing at all. He's not a very likable hero, but he is. He's ultimately likable. I have to say. We're thinking about bringing a couple of wee Funko Pops up here. I've got a few, but I have a couple of Ash from the Army of Darkness, Evil Dead. Excuse me. Doc, if you're looking for sleep induction, then Hearts of Space is a gold one. Ah, excellent. Well, it doesn't often work with me, you see. I just end up listening to the things. For some reason, I'll just go to sleep whenever it happens, but it's not I can put something on and drift off. I'll put something on and listen to it and pray for sleep, if you see what I mean. Well, there we go. One of the wee things I was going to mention tonight, folks, just in stuff that we picked up a wee bit upon there. I managed to get through the final series, the second series of Altered Carbon, and I caught kind of the first part of it. Excuse me, and drifted away from it, and kind of hadn't one of those things where just with time and work and stuff, hadn't managed to get back and watch the end of it. Excuse me, and I kind of jumped back into about episode 4, kind of got a bit confused. And somebody out there said stick with it. So the last couple of nights I jumped in and watched the rest of it. So this time it's Takeshi Kovacs is the character, isn't it? It's being played by Anthony Mackie. So the main character, I suppose, can change bodies in that sense. Oh, Noodles, behave. Hey, sorry, Evil Noodles is kicking off. Noodles, look. Oh, the doghouse is full. Sorry, folks. Here. Madam, you're right. Bear with me, wee second. Oh, what's the matter with you? Good girl for barking at something. Well done. That's a good girl. You're sitting on my waistcoat. Can I have that back? Thank you. There we go. I have to tell her well done for barking at something. Hello. So I just got invaded by 3 dogs. Well, it's their house, so it's not really an invasion. We humans just hang here with them, you know. Oh dear. Well, no, I just wanted to say that the second series, the first series of Altered Carbon, and I don't know about the book at all. I thought the first series was really, really good. I had Joel Kinnaman and James Purefoy in it. Really good wee show, I thought. And then we've had Altered Carbon Resleeved, which is an anime, and I thought that was excellent. So just it was just to let you know that I did make it through season two of Altered Carbon, and I thought just to let you know, I thought it was pretty good. It just had slowed down a wee bit naturally in the middle, and yeah, I think it was a little less dark than the first series, I suppose. But the Altered Carbon stuff's definitely worth a look. If you like your science fiction, I thought it was very enjoyable. It's got some interesting ideas in it. I think there's some very obvious loopholes in some of the things in it. But and particularly, I thought the one thing that kind of really brought me back to it was the anime. I thought it was excellent. Really enjoyed it. It's called, I think, Altered Carbon Resleeved. I think all of them are on Netflix at the minute. So it was just to have a wee mention that somebody had said, stick with it, Russ, if you know what I mean. So I did, and I just got to the end, and yeah, very enjoyable. Definitely worth watching. I'd give it a recommendation. So if anybody's into Altered Carbon, hasn't seen season two or the Resleeved anime, definitely worth checking out if you like your science fiction. Excuse me. Ron says, yes, both. It was weird that I didn't, both endings. Didn't know about the non-shopping mall ending until it was on TV at 4 a.m. That was weird. In the 1980s, I watched a film named The Quiet Earth, and it was great. Then recently, I learned Neil deGrasse Tyson considers the movie his favorite sci-fi of all time. Is this on your radar? I think I've seen it a long time ago. Let me see. Oh, 85 we're talking. Let's see. I do believe I have. Yes, indeed. That's it. Novel, the same name. By Craig Harrison. Other sources of inspiration have been suggested. 1954 novel I Am Legend, Dawn of the Dead, and especially the 1959 film The World, the Flesh, and the Devil, of which it's been called an official remake. Yeah. New Zealand. Yeah. Long time ago, I have to say. And there's a bunch of, I suppose, science fiction from Australia, New Zealand, that era. I suppose there's a lot of good films coming out at that time. But no, I'll tell you what, John, I'd have to watch it again, which isn't a bad thing at all, because we're thinking on doing a wee on reviewing some films and stuff, and that shouldn't be too hard in terms of production for us here. So we're having a wee look at some movies tonight. Our film for tonight, by the way, folks, that I'm going to be watching later. We're going to have a wee nosy at this one. I'm a Cyborg by Park Chan-wook. It's from the director of Oldboy. So my wife's been enjoying some good TV series off from Korea lately, and a few films and stuff. So this is one of these DVDs that I've bought that I actually haven't got round to watching at all. Pardon me. I've got a bunch of Park Chan-wook films downstairs. I haven't seen them, and I bought them all. They're for their so just say I'll maybe do a wee marathon there. That's the director of the original Oldboy. Really good. Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and Thirst, I think, are the ones we've got downstairs. But yeah, if anybody's not familiar, I'll maybe have it. It certainly looks like it has a science fiction element to it. So I don't know if anybody's seen it or can recommend it or not, but hopefully we'll have it watched for the next time. I'll let you know if it's any good or not. Glad to hear it. Nice to see that elder race. Colleges and Campbell's. Excuse me. Babs Bennett is off to cook my dinner. See you all Sunday. See you later, Babs. Thanks very much for joining us. I will see you on Sunday for the book club. There's an essay by J.D. Burnell called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Wonder if the film is an adaptation. Well, they're saying there's something about that. That's The Quiet Earth, isn't it? We'll have a wee look at that. The one there's one of the films that I've actually got here on the computer. Oh, hang on. That's The Quiet Earth. Right, I'll scribble some of these things down for next time, see if we can follow up on them. The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Is the film that I haven't watched. Recently just got to watch Sorcerer for the first time, and I have films as well as books that I haven't got round to watching that I keep because I'm can't wait to see this, and it really, if I can't give it my attention, it won't get watched or it won't get read. It's as simple as that. I want to give it my full attention, um, and it's yeah. So I finally got a chance to watch Sorcerer for the first time. Now, the Sorcerer came out against Star Wars, really, didn't it? And it's kind of, is it William Friedkin, I think. This that meant to be a masterpiece of a film in terms of tension, etc. Kind of widely ignored because of the Star Wars phenomenon, I think, in 1977. So I just watched it a few weeks ago. Absolutely brilliant. Really, wow, what a great film for tension. Just I'll not spoil it in any way. But if you don't know Sorcerer, have an opportunity to watch it, check it out. But the film that we're talking about that I also have in this same folder it's The Cars That Ate Paris, and I haven't got around to seeing that yet. And I can't believe that I've never seen it. I've actually had opportunities to see this film and missed it. At kind of like at little cinemas and stuff like that on part of festivals and stuff. Excuse me. And a very lot much like sort of Mad Max films and things like that. And I think there's one, is it Until the End of the World, I'm thinking on as well, possibly, but maybe a bit later, like a 90s film. But yeah, that's the one that I'm looking forward to watching. Who's that by? Hang on, The Cars That Ate Paris, isn't that it? There we go. That's 1974, isn't it? I've been looking forward to seeing this film so much, and it's just haven't got around to it. That's Peter Weir film, comedy horror. 148 people live in the township of Paris, and every one of them is a murderer. They're the cars that ate Paris. It looks great fun, I have to say. Maybe try and get through that for next week, actually. But there we go. Yeah, I haven't ever got a chance to watch that. But let me get the rest of that scribbled down. The Flesh and the Devil. There we go. What have we look at? Sounds interesting. Brad says it's getting close to 7 a.m. here, and I've got to be at the park by 9 as we're hosting the Beer Food Footy Festival today. It's going to be a big one. Well, say hello to everybody at the Beer Food Footy Festival for us, Brad, and I hope you have a good one today. Hope the weather's good and you all have a good time. Yeah, sounds fun. John Disney, looking forward to your review. Oh, okay, yeah, definitely have a look at that. Look, yeah, I've reviewed a couple of things so far, but we've kind of kept them in terms of, I suppose, book. Well, the one that we did look at was, I suppose, A Boy and His Dog with the publications from those sets of stories. But yeah, definitely films. We're trying to open up the science fiction station a wee bit here. Get some. It's just a matter of time, but we can watch a film in a couple of hours and have a chat about it. Definitely the quietest. And I'm loving my old films at the minute, I really have to say. But yeah, thanks, John. We'll get there. So much to do. I watched Hawk the Slayer. Bojack says that was a fun one. Bojack, I went to see Hawk the Slayer in the cinema when I was a kid, and it was a double bill with Saturn 3. So it was literally the B movie, and I love it so much. And it's a cracking film. Let me see. Tell you what. The music is. We're talking about music from science fiction and fantasy and horror shows. Let me see. If I had a Hawk the Slayer video up here, where would I be? It's there. It is. Right next to me. Hang on. Got asked what I wanted for my birthday 2 years ago, and that was what I told. Get me that, and I got Hawk the Slayer special edition, starring Jack Palance and John Terry. As I like to point out, Bernard Breslau's in this film. Love Bernard Breslau, but it's a real and there's for those who don't know it, a cult classic which remains an adventure and fantasy favourite to this day. Hawk the Slayer is the ultimate British B-movie. Revel in this sword and sorcery epic. It's awesome. I love it. And I'd happily sit and watch it. And there's something very cheesy about it, something very cool about it. There's real effort in it. It's a very low budget film, and it's actually a Annette Crosby's in it as well. Actually, if anybody knows Old Harry's Game, or One Foot in the Grave, the TV series, Annette Crosby would play Victor Meldrew's wife. But she's Professor Edith Barrington, I think, in Old Harry's Game. So she's the main professor that deals with the devil in that radio show. She's really good. She's quite young in it, actually. Really good actress. But yeah, I love Hawk the Slayer. And it's good old fashioned kind of good versus evil. The mind sword is pretty cool. It's got a hint of it tries to be a little bit sci-fi, if you know what I mean, and it tries to be a bit of a, I suppose it's kind of a hybrid of like fantasy, science fiction, Hammer horror films and spaghetti westerns, and the music is a kind of melange of all of those things. The music sounds a bit like the War of the Worlds meets The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I suppose. I've been humming the music from it there for a few days. Actually, I do like it. The music's great, and the thing is, if you like the music from, if you like Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds, you would absolutely love the music from Hawk the Slayer, because it's kind of derivative, if you know what I mean. But it's very good. So yeah, absolute class film. Yeah, I used to get deposited in the Strand Road Cinema when I was a kid, and double bills in particular. While my dad went about his business. It's what it is. I used to call the Strand Road Cinema in Belfast one of arguably my two kind of hangouts, if you like, as a child, considered safe places. It is a fun one, and 2008 is bringing out a new Hawk series. That's right, Brad. We were having a wee chat about it the other week. I think I'm not too sure, but I think it hasn't been serialized in 2080, and I think you can get, or might have been the magazine, possibly. Not too sure. I had a wee chat about it the other week, so I think I gave some details in it, and I think it's Garth Ennis is behind it. I'm not too sure of the artist, but Garth Ennis has got some pretty good writing chops, I think. And yeah, Arthur C. Clarke approves of J.D. Bernal. So there you go. Okay. Arthur C. Clarke approved of J.D. Bernal colleges. Arthur C. Clarke's dead and has no opinion anymore. Sorry, I'm just having a joke of being a pedant. Yeah, J.D. Bernal. Is that yeah, have a wee look. I tend to take my make my own opinions up on, someone's approval of a person is not an indicator of whether I like them or not, or like their work. Oh dear, because then I'll have to consider the person who's approved them, if you like, But yeah, Jack Palance played a good part in that Hawk the Slayer. He did indeed. He's the main bad guy, Hawk's brother. He turns up in all sorts of places. He's a particularly good villain, and there's I think a really good episode of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century where Jack Palance is the bad guy. He's kind of a holy man with super hot hands. I'm wondering, is that the episode where just wondering, I'm a big fan of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Best TV intro possibly ever, but I'm wondering, is that the episode where Buck Rogers meets Flash Gordon? And it's Buck Rogers being played by Gil Gerard, and Flash Gordon being, as Brigadier Gordon, being played by Larry Buster Crabbe, isn't it? The original Flash. That's a good moment. That's a good moment in TV history, I think, when Buck Rogers meets Flash Gordon. Things like that don't, and it's a very much a, mutual respect. Let's go kill some bad guys, and that's kind of it. And then they have a wee bit of a nice to know you, kind of thing. There's a really good little cameo, I think. Hawk the Slayer is lovely. I love it. Great film. I bought the DVD Boyne's Dog Duty review. Fantastic. I couldn't get a copy over here. Have to have a hunt for one. I've actually lent it to somebody, my own copy, and I never got it back. Sadly. So I ended up buying a digital copy. It's amazing how so much new material is based on that movie. I love the older sci-fi, and you seem to know a lot of the good stuff. Thank you very much, John. That's kind of what we're about here. Hopefully, I mean, as much as science fiction's full of old pulpy stuff, and there's a lot of it that's not great quality or good. I genuinely think A Boy and His Dog, the collected shorts, the collected stories that we did a wee review on, and I suppose it's very important to include the film with that, because the reputation, I think the reputation damage done to Harlan Ellison which continued to do more damage, I think, right up until the end. But this is the book we're talking about, folks. If anybody doesn't know it, is this is Harlan Ellison's Bloods Are Over, which is the complete and absolutely finished and final, by the way, complete adventures of a boy and his dog. And they are really well written, character driven science fiction, if you like. And how they're perceived. I thought, to me, it was about correcting a wee bit of an injustice. I don't know if you got that from the video, John. I just thought Harlan got treated quite badly over that. To listen to the feminist reaction comparing that there to the final solution was insane. Absolutely, it still is. It just makes me go, well, it's the main thing is that Joanna Russ, who's supposed to be a respected feminist writer and critic at the time, compares this science fiction film and to the Nazis' final solution. I think, yeah, no, you've gone far too far. Really not understood what's going on here at all. So I genuinely think it's a lovely set of stories, and I think it's a wonderful film. And I watched it when I was a little kid, by the way, John, and I laughed my head off. And I think I said in the video, I did get it. I understand it. It's still funny. And it's not meant to be. It's a post-apocalyptic nightmare world, but ultimately it's about a boy who loves his dog, and I'm a boy who loves his dogs. I've got two being quiet now. One of them's disappeared here at the minute. But yeah, what came of, I suppose, the response to the film is partly what's in there, and partly what's in Bloods Are Over is also Harlan's response. To understanding that there's a change going on in America, that feminism actually has a lot of real points to make, and that he's not someone who just churns out this. He's a considered human being, and he took, I think, a lot of that on board. And so what he did with these characters, really, and I loved reading that. And I said the last time I left those two characters, they were in a really bad state, and you thought they were dumb, basically, if you see what I mean, and not in a good way. And there was something really left quite a bad taste in my mouth, I suppose, reading them and wanting to find out about them a bit more. But yeah, I'd caught the original story once upon a time, saw the film first, I think, long before I read the story. And when I did read the story, I enjoyed it. And yeah, the only thing I haven't really sort of checked out in terms of a Bloods Are Over, Boy and His Dog, etc., is there are graphic novels with Richard Corbin, I believe. I'd love to have a look at those. This wee thing, by the way, this wee thing on the cover is by Brett Bather, and it's a wee sculpture. By the way, it's not from the comic, but it's actually a sculpture of Vic and Blood that they've used for the cover. Isn't that wonderful? But they're it's character driven, I suppose. They're very endearing characters. I'm certainly very fond of them, and yeah, I'm glad to bought the DVD. I hope you've enjoyed the film. Amazing how much new material is based on that movie. Absolutely, and it's a real influence on science fiction, and particularly the post-apocalyptic stuff. It really is, and I think it's groundbreaking, and I think it's a very cheeky. It's always described as a rather kinky film, isn't it? And I always thought it wasn't that kinky at all, but it is really good. You're saying I love the older sci-fi, and you seem to know a lot of it. Well, I think a lot of it is good. One of the things that we're trying to do here, John, really is just talk about our love of science fiction, any shape or form whatsoever, and really, particularly with the videos that we're doing, we're hoping to promote. Not for any other reason than we think there's certain stuff of note out there that people should be aware of, or if you like your old science fiction. There's a couple of things that I think are absolute gems, and they're virtually, they wouldn't be on most people's radar. One of the ones I'm looking at is possibly like societies that turn politics into games, if you see what I mean. And your structure of your civilization is based on a competition or game, and thinking about that in light of the player of games, but looking back at older science fiction, there's a story called The Glass-Bead Game by Hermann Hesse, which is the winner of the world's first Nobel Peace Prize Prize for Literature. Apologies, following World War II. So I think it won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1946, I believe. And there's a little association. That's a book that wouldn't be on many people's radars, I suppose. But some science fiction's great fun, and that's where, unfortunately for me, I love the fun stuff as well. I'm very happy in B movie heaven, if you see what I mean. And even some of the kind of pulp fiction, I really love it. But there's a lot of interesting books out there, and I've even grabbed some new science fiction from around the world. Not all of it new, but it's new to me. I suppose a modern global environment has meant that I can get access to books like this. So I've actually a cluster up here of little science fiction books. Uh, by people from cultures that I have no idea about whatsoever, that I've not read a science fiction book from that country, for example. I'm really looking forward to having a look at those. But yeah, we've got lots of good stuff. And to be honest with you, it's certain time in my life where I'm getting to the point where I'm strongly desirous to reread a lot of this stuff. The memory is getting, and it's particularly because I read a lot of it when I was very young. And the bulk of science fiction I've consumed is probably between the ages of 4 and 18, I suppose, but a massive reading when I'm a kid. Didn't really have much else to do. That's what Arthur C. Clarke wants you to think, says Colleges and Cannibals. I do like Arthur C. Clarke, very fond of him, I have to say. We're considering our videos under the letter C, possibly doing one on Clarke, but I thought it would take a long time. But we do want to put together a little series of videos looking at what we call the Big Four, or what used to be called the Big Four, but are now called the Big Three, because certain science fiction academics and journalists have decided to throw Frank Herbert out of that and to consider certain people's history books, I suppose, on science fiction invalid. Excuse me. So that's one of the things, one of those little things that aren't quite right that I suppose that I would like to address. Frank Herbert should be back in the book, the Big Four, I think, definitely. And if you look at the Wikipedia pages of the Big Four, I suppose you'll see 3 of them are included in the Big Three, and Frank Herbert's just on his own now. But there we go. Somebody was asking me, by the way, I meant to say at the end of a program there, I'm usually humming a wee bit of a tune or something, and I hum in between sentences and stuff. So it was just to give you a bit of an explanation, but somebody thought I think it was a particular song. And I think the thing that I'm humming, by the way, is the tune to Barbarella, just to let you know. So if you're wondering what the ba-ba-ba-ba that I do at the end of, that's what it is. Pardon me. It's the theme music to Barbarella. The reason why I do it, by the way, is they're okay. So I hear, I think I've told you this before, I sort of hear and see things that most people don't. So I hear white noise all the time, like very high pitched through. Occasionally you'll see me go, oh, off to one side. And so whenever I'm not talking, how I've dealt with it is I kind of just run tunes in my head and they leak out a bit. So that's why I hum all the time. People think it's because I'm hysterically happy. It's not the case. But there we go. In the 3rd book of the 3-body problem, it begins by explaining the stars are destination project. Thought you'd enjoy that. Thank you, Bojack. I knew there was a reference in it. Was it yourself that said I'd asked to keep a wee eye out for it? Yeah. I think Film and Page has done a wee Dominic on Film and Page has done a wee review of the Stars My Destination. Tiger. I always call it Tiger. Even my copy says Stars My Destination. I think Tiger is a much better title for it, but no, they both work, I suppose. In fact, probably better working with both, isn't it? But yeah, the amount of I think he's Dominic over at Film Page. I think he's picked up on a fair amount of the stuff that's in The Expanse from the Stars at My Destination, and yeah, it is. When I said jaw dropping, it's ridiculous if you read a lot of science fiction and you've known that book, how much of it is, how many things are influenced by it. I think at the very best, I suppose. But it is, for anybody who hasn't read it, I still recommend it. It's a book that I'll be reading again one day. I've no doubt about it. I think that was my third read of it there recently. I'd happily go back to it almost every other year or something. It's just very enjoyable. It's not that if once you know what happens, that's fine, but it's there is, what is it, something elegantly pulpy about it, and it's a piece of literature. It kind of just ticks all the boxes. It's got something that highly accessible about it that science fiction should have, you know. But yeah, very, very enjoyable book. I have to say, love it, love it, love it. Yeah, and I said we're going to have to really. I think that the Three Body Problem is a book that's kind of on the lips of most people within the science fiction world over the last few years. So I have the first book here, and we're looking forward to getting it done. My biggest problem at the minute is finding time to read, and we're trying to reorganize the office and actually restructure my week a bit so that we can get a reading day done and this kind of thing. And takes me usually about a good 7 or 8 hours to get any reading and note taking done for the book club. But we don't want to kind of detract from our other videos. So yeah, we were thinking about Arthur C. Clarke for our C volume, and I often talk about his book Of Time and Stars, which is kind of the book that got me going into science fiction, you know. So yeah, Arthur C. Clarke would have been on the TV a fair bit here. You know, when I was growing up, Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, things like that, you know. But I think we've decided what to do, or possibly what we're going to do our C episode on. I think we're going to have a look at, we'd like to do something on the culture, but that's going to be a heavy program. So arguably what we thought is, in my life, the one book that's, we've talked about, that if you want to know the book that's actually influenced my life most, and for a long part of my life I didn't actually own it. I periodically borrowed it off a friend. This is the book. And Carl Sagan's Cosmos in the original TV series. It's a work of both science and science fiction and speculation, but it sent me kind of down 3 different roads, if you like. One was scientific, one was science fiction, and of course the other one was it piled me headlong into the ancient world. This book, I mean, it's not. It actually begins with a quotation from Seneca. You know, natural questions. That's how Cosmos begins. It then goes on to begin with, if you're interested, a charming is an incantation against the worm, which the Assyrians of 1000 BC imagined to cause toothaches. It begins with the origin of the universe and ends with the cure for toothache. There we go. That's all to do with the worm. You might like this, Dune fans. Tell you what, let's just read it actually. After Anu had created the heaven, and the heaven had created the earth had created the rivers, and the rivers had created the canals, and the canals had created the morass, and the morass had created the worm. The worm went before Shamash, weeping, his tears flowing before Ea. What wilt thou give me for my food? What wilt thou give me for my drink? I will give thee the dried fig and the apricot. What are these to me, the dried fig and the apricot? Lift me up, and among the teeth and the gums let me dwell, because thou hast said this, O worm, may Ea smite thee with the might of his hand. And this is an incantation against toothache from 1000 BC. The point I suppose I was trying to make is that the Carl Sagan's Cosmos is also the book that introduced me to the classical world. Believe it or not. So that ticks pretty much all of my boxes. Astronomy and all of that stuff. And of course the TV series is wonderful, and it really does begin with a look into ancient culture. So within the first bear with me, just the first chapters, we have quotations from the Popol Vuh of the Quiche Maya. We have quotations from the Book of Job, from Blaise Pascal's Pensées, from T.H. Huxley. You know, the second chapter, quotations from the Quran, T.H. Huxley again, from Charles Darwin's Origin of Species, from William Huggins. In terms of a book that just, it's about the cosmos, it's about everything. And it's a great, I suppose, what you would call a coffee table book, etc. Winner of the Pulitzer Prize in 1978. You know, is that for this book? Possibly. Yeah. I mean, Carl Sagan in particular, I think it's an amazing book. And I think culturally, it's the book and the TV series impact on human civilization, etc. But it begins with human civilization. and incorporates a lot of mythology. And for that's why it's a really important book to me, anyway. I always thought Carl Sagan, I suppose, in terms of his science, etc., but he's considered his great skill is communication, isn't it? He's one of the, arguably, probably the 20th century's finest communicator, I would think. Just the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he presents complicated information, and was able to do it to a global audience who came to understand it and be amazed by it and wonder at it. I think it's fantastic. So we're thinking of doing a wee program on Cosmos, and then possibly have a look at the Culture series by Ian M. Banks, I suppose. So there we go. There was one other wee thing, I suppose, that we were talking about. And a couple of wee things for anybody who's out there, I suppose, in Northern Ireland. Just in terms of those kind of, we have a couple of those kind of what we get, QCon and Comic Con coming up here. So QCon, like my son's thinking about heading up to, that's sort of games and trading cards and comics and all that sort of stuff. Is on up in Belfast at Queen's University from Sunday the 18th of June. Sorry, Saturday the 18th to Sunday the 19th of June 2022. So that's kind of interesting. They're QCon Belfast. But I think we have our Comic Con coming up in September. I'll get some more details of that. It's going to be sadly up and out of Belfast. We had the first one years ago here. And I know, I think people in large countries, modern countries like America and Australia and Canada have these Comic-Con things, even in England, but not really in Northern Ireland. And I think we took our son to the first one, and it was a wonderful thing to see in Belfast. We saw all these kids dressed up as Doctor Who and judges from Judge Dredd and stormtroopers and Darth Vaders and you name it. And it was to see them walking through the streets in Belfast. All these young people dressed up, and we were part of it. I thought it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And they held it at the King's Hall in Belfast for the first couple of years, and now they've taken it to some kind of business centre in a car park out in the arse end of nowhere, which is really sad. But we were having a wee look at the guest list and stuff like that, seeing I think it's some of the cast of Lucifer. I think Dirk Benedict is there, and Lou Ferrigno. So Starbuck stroke, from Battlestar Galactica, Lou Ferrigno, the original Hulk. So quite interesting to see sort of names like that, I suppose, coming to Northern Ireland and think wouldn't have been imaginable. You wouldn't have imagined it in the past, I suppose. Maybe 20 years ago, it just wouldn't have happened. So there we go, folks. Yes, indeed. We're not going to stay on too long. We just thought we'd pop on and have a wee bit of a natter about some things. We did want to have a wee quick chat about the Caledonian Hunt, but I think we're going to keep it for the Dune Book Club. And it was just simply put that we made a connection between Caladan and Caledon. And it was probably one of those ones that within Dune that I was sort of saying I've absolutely kicked myself for not realizing. But the Caledonian Hunt and the story of Meleager and Meleager, or what's his proper name? Meleagros. And I think we had a wee chat about the female Argonaut called Atalanta. I'd argue it's one of those really important Greek myths that virtually no one's ever heard of. So we were going to have a wee, what I thought I'd do, I'll maybe keep it for the book club actually in terms of Caledon. But one of the actual accounts of the Caledonian Hunt that you can still read is within Apollodorus. So to do with Oeneus, Meleager, and of course the hunt for the Caledonian boar. But it's Caledon apparently. Caledon is also a person, by the way, that the city is named after. So it was one of those things, but we'll maybe have a wee bit of an natter to do with that in the book club. But it was just to have a wee bit of a chat about a few wee things. We're not going to stay on too long again tonight, folks, because of the throat. So once again, we're trying to get back to normal with the Sci-Fi Fridays and Saturdays. We always do one, hopefully, each week. And the book club's we've had a wee bit of a throat infection that's been taken. It's a bit of a toll. So we've got a wee bit of food for thought there for the next time. And we will be on this is Friday, isn't it? We'll be on Sunday at 9 o'clock GMT +1. and on with the next chapter of June. Hopefully, we'll have a wee bit of news about a few things coming up on the channel soon as well. Possibly a few. Hopefully, we'll be getting working on our next proper video soon as well. So, if you've got any questions for the book club, etc., as I said, we had noticed a couple of wee things that we were sort of scribbling down, that we kind of, because these chapters have been so busy, we were kind of wanting to sort of pause and reflect about a few things that we talked about and a few points and people that have been brought up. Just sort of chat things like Alan Watts. We were talking about fear and terror, Caladan, and we wanted to sort of run through how the Atreides familial homicide is going to work within who kills who exactly, what's the map of murder within the Dune universe. Sorry. So yeah, we'll keep it for the book club, folks. And as I said, good to get the wee Sci-Fi Friday back again. We'll start picking this thing up proper, but we're watching our throats, so we're only roughly running for about an hour each time. So in the meantime, I'll say I hope you have a good Friday night wherever you are, possibly Saturday morning. And I hope you're looking after yourselves, folks. We'll see you on Sunday at 9 p.m. GMT +1. Thanks very much for joining me, as always. And if you have any questions or comments for us, sure, get them ready for us for next week. And we'll always be happy to answer them. So thank you, folks. Take it easy and look after yourselves. Bye-bye, all, says colleges and cannibals. Bye, colleges. Take it easy, guys. All the best and have a good one. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Take care. Bye-bye. Da 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 ba ba.